Shout out to our sponsors at ICONbet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. ICONbet, made by the players, for the players. Eye on Icon is proudly supported by Icon Nation and the Icon community. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Eye on Icon, the episode where we go around the Icon ecosystem and get you the latest and greatest news. And with me is our co-host, Icongrapher. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. I've woken up, my coffee's kicked in, so feeling good now. Well, in the morning when we are chatting and you asked me, I'm like, yeah, average. But it's good. It's good. Another day. I've woken up. It looks like I don't know. The markets look like I don't know what they're doing. They're going up. They look like
I
they're
think we're in the I think we're in that stage where it's, there was the meme back in 2017 was, you know, Bitcoin goes up, alts go down, Bitcoin goes down, alts go down, Bitcoin stays steady, alts go up. So I think Bitcoin's been in this little 32 to 35, 36 range for
mm,
feels like years, but I think it's probably been a couple weeks. And so I think usually in the past when it's been able to find a little bit of a range consistent, it's given some alts, it's given alts a chance to breathe a little bit. Bitcoin dominance is going down. So nice to see Icon, ticking up a little bit, and it's not, you know, just rising and falling with whatever momentum Bitcoin has, because right now it doesn't seem to have any in either direction. And yeah, some of the alts are doing well too. It seems like anecdotally, Icon might be doing a little better, but I can't. I don't want to say that for sure, just because I haven't, studied the markets too in depth. But either way, it's been nice to see, every day waking up just a little bit more green. So certainly moving in the right direction, and hopefully going to build some nice momentum as we move toward Icon 2.0 and BTP and ICE, which all should be happening in the second half of 2021. So certainly excited about that.
it's funny as you say that those are just major like upgrades. They're not even the dApps that are about to come out in the next 2 months. So
Right. Yeah.
it's a good time. But
Certainly a lot. Yep. A lot going on.
yeah. Well, look, as always in the past, well, when we used to record these price used to pump, let's hope that tradition is coming back in. But while we're here, look, as soon as we released the news last week, a whole wave of new news hit, which is a good thing. I actually tweeted about this that, we missed three of these things, but they came out post recording. But that's a great sign and a good thing to have happening. So let's cover it off. One of the first things
Yeah.
that,
Well, and hold on, I do want to say
yeah.
that for those who didn't listen to last week's episode, obviously we ran through news, but we spent a good time talking about the implications of BTP, and had a lot of good kind of encouraging and positive feedback on that episode. I don't know about less the episode itself, but I think more about the light bulb clicking for a lot of people on the BTP, and how it benefits ICX holders overall. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that episode, I strongly encourage you to do so. Again, the news part will be a little bit out of date, but if you go to the YouTube version of the episode, there are timestamps if you just want to skip to the BTP discussion. So certainly, I just want to give a self plug there.
Oh, that's a good one. No, definitely. A lot of people tweeted about it as a must listen because look, it was for me as well. It happened on the podcast. I made you pause and go, hang on, can we reiterate this? And yeah, it's definitely one to listen to. And if you keep thinking, why is everyone making such a big fuss of BTP, apart from the interoperability part of it, why we care so much as icon holders, ICX holders. So that's the one to listen to, definitely. So, kicking off this week's news, we had an update from the foundation. What was this update? I think this is the update everyone's kind of like can't wait for every month, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, a lot of it, I think, is if you're following Icon really closely, a lot of it is kind of you kind of know a good chunk of it already. But there's always, even if you're following it closely, like we do, obviously, there's always one or two little nuggets in there that are certainly a little bit new and a little bit exciting as well. So I think that I think it's really geared toward people who are kind of a bit more casual followers of Icon, to just kind of keep them up to date. But either way, it's always nice to get that development update in my inbox or in my Medium alerts or whatever it is. So the migration of Icon 2.0, which is I as the foundation has stated, Icon 2.0 is basically done as far as the programming, the language, the coding, the development, whatever you want to call it. And so the only key remaining step is essentially taking all the data on the existing blockchain and moving it onto the new one. This is a lot more difficult than simply hitting copy paste. It takes a lot of finesse and nuance and delicate work in order to do so. The last update we got that it was this was probably 3 weeks ago, something like that. Basically said it was about 30%, according to TJ, who's the newer member of the foundation team. Still ongoing, but as a side, it's a separate tweet. TJ indicated that hopefully we'll be getting an update pretty soon and should get a blog post about it with some more specifics coming up here. I think he said sometime. So certainly excited to see that. Also, they mentioned they'll be preparing plans to update all the various service providers in the Icon ecosystem. This is a bit more housekeeping, just making sure that the various exchanges that have been built, the wallets, everything like that, that they're prepared and able to track everything on the new Icon 2.0 chain, as far as all the new data and the migration, everything like that. And then another key part is, at least as far as the Icon 2.0 front is concerned, is there will be an update to IISS. Which I cannot remember off the top of my head what exactly that specifically stands for. I knew this at one point in time, but it's essentially the tokenomic system, basically, for the Icon network. There'll be an update on that. We've talked a little bit in the past about kind of what that might look like, and Scott has hinted at the various directions this might go. Primarily, I guess the short end of it is creating a modified tokenomic system that essentially directs inflation a little bit differently, and can also potentially reduce inflation. Basically allows PREPs to determine, how much inflation goes to PREPs, how much inflation goes to stakers, how much goes to the CPS, and I believe relayers for BTP is the other one. But we can get into that a bit more in depth, I think, especially once we have a concrete proposal in our hands. But certainly something that'll be, I think, encouraging, because, again, I think it is in response to overall concerns about inflation, and also just a way to make the align incentives maybe a little bit better as far as the tokenomics are concerned. So certainly stay tuned for that. The other part of it was related to BTP. Basically, they mentioned some of the, as far as the development work is concerned, they're about 70% done with the core BTP contracts. So that's certainly encouraging. And I think we already know, but Moonbeam will be the first integration, followed by Akala, Plasm, and Edgeware. Those are all the Polkadot affiliated chains that we're working with. And as you know, based on, if you've listened to the BTP episodes, both the community BTP discussion as well as the podcast last week that we mentioned, we are also working with Near, Binance Smart Chain, obviously Polkadot, and as well as Harmony. So we have that work is all getting done as well. So we know those are in process. They'll also mention that there'll be visuals for the dashboard. So I assume this is something along the lines of basically, when you want to transfer assets across BTP, I assume you have to type in, hey, I want to move this much from this chain to this chain, something along those lines. We'll get a chance to see what that actually looks like. So that'll certainly be exciting. Very tangible kind of achievement in the lifespan of the BTP development process. And then finally is that we'll get an update on the ICE blockchain sometime in the coming days. I'm quoting them saying in the coming days. So we're still a little bit vague on some of the details. I think we have a pretty good understanding, at least by now, as far as what the goals of ICE are and kind of how it's going to be built around. But I think there were some still outstanding questions about, tokenomics and things like that. So interested to see what this development, or what this update has in store. So hopefully by the time we release next week, we have an update on both the migration specifically, how far along we are, and as well as the kind of what the ICE update includes.
Yeah, it's a big one. I think just to set expectations, the data migration, we've called this out before. I know it's 30%. I don't know. I think people need to understand that at times the data migration can go very slow. So if we get an update and it's 40% and you were expecting 80, don't be surprised. Not that I know anything, or I just know from actual personal experience, data migrations do take time, particularly this type of data migration is unheard of. So, apart from that, I'm really actually excited about the 3.1 IISS update. I am really keen to see some documentation around it, what's being proposed, because initial conversations have happened in forums, but they've kind of faded given quite a lot of the other stuff going on in the ecosystem. So I'm excited to see what that holds and really review it and get into it. And you know what? Icongrapher, keen to cover that off in a podcast like breakdown, because that is now this is probably why we haven't focused on tokenomics, because we know a major rework is coming, so might as well get the latest and greatest. So excited about that. The other stuff, yeah, the dashboards is important. It'll be interesting to see how simple they create this, and hopefully there's a bit of thought around the UI. Like, we know balance, we know our dApps have that love and care thanks to Parrot 9. So let's hope these dashboards are incredibly simple for users to use. That's probably what's going to secure a little bit of the uptake for BTP as well. So kind of important there. But yeah, we covered off everything well. We can move on.
Yeah, perfect. So the next that was not the only development update we got. We also got one from Balanced. So for the sake of transparency, they said they're going to put out regular updates. I believe they said every month as well. They mentioned a lot of what they've accomplished. I don't think we need to dive into that, just because we've been keeping folks updated basically every time they've done anything of significance, basically since the app launched. But as far as what to look forward to, they listed, they probably listed, I don't know, a dozen bullet points or something like that, as far as kind of the next the next set of features they're working on. We're not going to go into all of them necessarily, because a couple of them do get a little technical and aren't necessarily as major as the other ones. But I think the key major ones are essentially a decentralized governance, user interface and experience, as well as the smart contracts that go along with them. The ability for community submitted votes, and this part of itself is being done on testnet just to start kind of testing that out. And also, this is something, basically a mechanism to give rebalancing kickbacks to borrowers. This is something that Scott had mentioned they're tinkering with, at least mentally tinkering with. Basically, what obviously one of the major concerns and frustrations with the balanced protocol when it first launched was essentially this rebalancing, I don't want to necessarily say feature, but mechanism that as people were exchanging and paying off loans and things like that, it was essentially people's own balances were getting paid off automatically, which on the net for the most part doesn't really mess with your overall, I guess say, net worth a whole lot. But I think the fact that ICX was getting sold for relatively cheap prices was off-putting for a lot of people. So they've already made a couple adjustments to try to fix that. They raised the fee for that, and also as as the ICX price has stabilized a little bit, we've seen less. As the price has stabilized, we've seen less and less of that. But one of the tools they thought about was essentially, having that process essentially be self-contained to a certain extent, and allowing it to where, when that does happen, in order to maintain the peg, that the people who have their collateral locked up in a loan taken out, essentially get a portion, or at least the entirety of that, split among all the people who have loans out. So it kind of goes in a circle where it comes back to everyone. So it's a way to help kind of make return neutrality to people's positions, to where they're not feeling like they're losing collateral or getting ICX sold at a lower price. It's a bit more complicated than kind of how I just described it. And if you want to learn a bit more about it, I encourage you to go back and listen to that discussion, which happened probably, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks after the launch of Balanced. But anyway, that's, I think, is something that a lot of the community are excited to see. So certainly getting excited to have more details on that. They also released a picture of what the governance forum would look like. It looks kind of similar to the Icon community forum as far as kind of the structure and the topics and things like that, but should give a nice self-contained area for more open and transparent discussions as far as potential proposals for how to improve the system, and kind of whatever else discussion might happen. That way, not everyone's necessarily on Telegram, not everyone's necessarily on Twitter, so it gives everyone a kind of a central place to go to talk in a more official capacity about what proposals to put forward, how to improve them, what might go wrong, critiques, all that other good stuff. So certainly looking forward to all that.
Yeah, look, the only thing I'll add is so after this episode, the following day, we'll release the community sessions that happened this week. Apologies for the delay there, but that it was all around DAOs, and there was some really good conversations around various topics related to balance. What could have, in hindsight now, reflecting on how it's operated, what changes would they have pre-thought of or not gone down. So it was a real interesting conversation. So we'll have that out after this episode. So I think that's a good one to follow up on, especially with the updates and the stuff they're working on, and you can get what they are very excited about as well. That, once we have the proposal forums and things like that, we should start seeing, if not only from the team, because I guess if the team have ideas, they will put proposals up to engage the community, but the community will have their own views on what they want to do. So yeah, I'm excited on that feature. I think at the end of the day, my personal view is, yep, you've nailed the UI, you've got all that. The forums, it just needs to be a forum where people can, those UI flashy improvements can happen later. That shouldn't. Getting that board up and running is probably key, and the team knows that. That's why they've refocused and looking to push that out in the next update. So, so the next one we have is a CPS proposal, something that's been put up, which is about Balnfolio, I'll say, proposal. This is an interesting one because we saw this team just before the what are the team called? Bear something. They just before the fees went live, they actually launched this site where you could put in your address and it would tell you what you will be getting paid out in fees for Balance Protocol. This is before, after the 60 days, which it just came out of nowhere, I thought, and it was quite well done. And they even said, it's pulling all the information for smart contracts, etc. So we've seen this team
It was pretty much spot on too. I think for people who were, I think before the awards came out, as far as myself and others I saw mention it, they were basically 100, pretty much 100% correct. Maybe slightly a tad off by a few small percentage points, but for the most part, I thought it was pretty much the tool they made was very helpful and successful, I guess is the short end of it.
Yep, and so this is seeing them now actually put through an application to create a bit of an add-on that gives you a whole lot of more information, pulling it from the smart contracts. They have put it in the CPS forums. Now, all for it. New builders, I love it. What I do think personally is this is something that should come through to the Balance DAO, and the Treasury should fund. And this is exactly why the Treasury exists, right? It's not just it's about everything and seeing people from the outside who can add value or create something off it. That again adds value to the entire ecosystem. So I love it. If you haven't, I'll have to remember to put a link in the show notes, and you can review their proposal. But they're not even asking for much funding to get the work done. So what I particularly love, apart from everything else, is they're new builders in the ecosystem. They're not builders who've been around that are proposing this. They've just come through.
Yeah, well, and to kind of just do a quick overview of what exactly they're proposing. It's essentially, right now it's, you can type in, into Balance and say, okay, Balance will tell you, okay, if you put in a loan, you'll get X% APY. If you this, you'll get X, Y% APY. But it doesn't factor in a lot of different other factors, say impermanent loss, things like that. So what this application wants to do is essentially create a broader monitor of your overall balance position, show how your portfolio is done over time, what positions you have open, more pool specific data, again factoring in impermanent loss, saying okay, maybe you've earned X number of balance, but your overall the overall value of this pool has gone down because of the issues with impermanent loss. What what the value would be if you just held your ICX versus what it would be if you had, basically what you've done in balance thus far. So it just helps create a lot more metrics for people to better understand if their strategy is profitable or if it's not profitable, which I think is definitely helpful. I'm kind of, I wouldn't be surprised, and kind of, I guess, as a counterpoint to what you were saying as far as this being a balance thing, this seems like something that would be very helpful for having access to kind of all the DeFi products once they launch. Being able to, then you can also say, okay, you can look at balance data, you can look at ohm data, you can look at equality data, and then also you can look at each one in their micro sense, but also broadly speaking, hey, ohm right now is the best place to put capital, or equality is the best place to put capital, or this is the best place to put ICX, this is the best place to put stable coins, whatever it might be. So I'm kind of surprised they didn't have a more general approach to it and just say kind of DeFi folio or something like that. And maybe they will make that adjustment, but I just think it's something that's once they build it on balance, it's I won't say easy, but certainly a logical next step to build kind of similar features for the other DeFi platforms launching. So either way, I think whether it gets funded out of balanced or whether it gets funded out of the CPS directly, I think it would be a helpful tool that a lot of people would utilize and could have a lot of potential for growth too. So certainly exciting to see.
Yeah, look, I think Scott had put a tweet out saying he's looking for certain skill sets to do to join the team. I actually tagged him on that post, saying, look, it appears that this team does have that skill set. But overall, look, as you say, and they can expand and they can go to the various treasuries and get funding. I mean, that's how. Otherwise, it shouldn't all default to CPS if it's adding to a particular protocol. That's all. But again, at the end of the day, honestly, like, we got builders, they want to build, they've built something very quickly, and it was quite good, very good, I thought. And so if they're wanting to build in the ecosystem, we should be encouraging it and doing what we can to
give them money. Give them money.
Exactly. Don't let them run away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So next thing, look, this is more an announcement of an announcement. So Project Coda, the one rhizome, is working. Brian's working with Tempo. They have an update coming out next week or early next week. It is this update is going. The project has kind of pivoted in direction in a good way, become a little bit bigger in scope, has a lot more people working on it, and Brian will actually be doing a blog post release detailing what the changes are going to be and why they've changed to that direction and how much value it's going to add. I've gotten glimpses of it. I see it, but it is best explained by Brian. So stay tuned for that. That is some news that is going to be coming out early next week. The other piece of news, there's some quick topics which to go across. ICONbet, our sponsors, our first sponsors, they've got their 2-year promo. My goodness, it's been 2 years. Okay. So they've been tweeting all about this now. They have some prizes. So I believe the top 10 players daily will earn tickets to a draw to a share of 5,000 ICX, 25,000 TAP, and 2 NFTs. 2 NFTs. Do you want to talk about these NFTs, Iconographer?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it a couple times already, but a little side project I did to help kind of correspond with the launch of Craft. Just a little fun little NFT project. Each one there's a bunch of moments in the history of the Icon blockchain that I've kind of taken that have occurred on the actual chain itself and tried to create a kind of graphical representation of them. And so there are 20 of them total, so ranging from the Icon. The first transaction on the Icon mainnet to the first the initial contract transaction for various ICONbet games, things like that, and then created various editions of them. Some being more rare than others. Platinum being very rare, bronze being less rare. We've been giving away a bunch of them just to kind of help build a community around it, and it's been nice momentum thus far. But as part of that, for people who for the teams that are affiliated with certain of these moments, and ICONbet being one of them, I've allocated a portion of the mint in order to allow them to use it for whatever purposes they like, ideally for promotional sense. But I do feel that they should have at least a share of the NFT because they are responsible for creating that moment. But So ICONbet will be utilizing some of those for this particular promotion. They may or may not be using others for future ones. Yeah, you'd have to ask them. But that was the kind of the design behind giving those away.
So
So if you haven't followed it, certainly we have a Telegram room and a Twitter account. I just Icon Treasury. So be sure to follow it, and hopefully it should be fun and correspond with the launch of Craft.
yep, excellent. And
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 and not to go too far off on the original topic though on IconBet. It has been 2 years already, which is pretty amazing. Just see it continues to grow. I just saw they had a new game launch, I believe, within the last couple days. And so they're continuing to build that way. And of course, we're all waiting for poker and the sports book as well, which they continue to build and test. So hopefully we'll get those soon as well.
yeah, and look, there's a few more things to it. There's 10,000 tap daily during the promo to be paid out on Twitter contests. Two players outside of the top 10, the wagers will get at least 1,000 ICX, and they have a chance to win one of two prizes of 5,000 tap. So while that top 10, there's a whole lot of different categories that have different prizes. So if you haven't seen it already, take a look at their Twitter, go into their Telegram. But yeah, 2 years milestone. Great to see another promo. It's been a while since there's been a promo, so that's how I found them. I saw a promo and went, "What's all this then? A free TV?" But yeah, so it's good to see. So there's that. Then what have we got? We've got Gangster bet. So this maybe people have forgotten. So this is one of the CPS funded projects around what is it? It's around crypto, like CryptoPunks, isn't it? Essentially,
Yeah, sort of. It's essentially, there's different. It's all kind of stylized around that 1920s, 30s, gangster mafia, whatever you want to call it, but in that kind of pixelated form. But they also come with kind of various character traits and skill sets and everything like that too. So it's a bit more of a gamified version of that. And we talked about it a while back when they first kind of announced the project. I wanted to say at least a couple months ago.
hmm.
So this is certainly not the first time we talked about them, but nice to see progress being made.
Yep, and they've even announced they've integrated a marketplace directly in the app. And look, again, the it's a game. You can get these, you can upgrade them via the unique token. So an NFT game that is being built on the Icon ecosystem. So it'll be quite cool, and very excited to see that come out. But overall, one of the cool things was they actually put out this tweet thanking the CPS system, and it is because of that they got the funding and actually realized the dream of the game and were able to build it. So that was really cool to see being done, and I suspect we'll keep seeing more of that as more projects get to the tail end that have been funded via CPS. That excitement starts to loom about release, and they like to thank who's made the project possible. So that's great to see, and that's the whole point of CPS. So the next bit of news we have, this one I'm quite passionate about. The Iconist released some. So the Iconists have been funded, and I will say this: the first couple of releases was all like Ohm, and I looked at it, and in my head I thought, yeah, okay, but there's already been 5 articles about this. I don't need. Personally, I wanted to see news about Korea, everything going on in the private sector, some of the challenges that have been faced. The news doesn't have to be positive, it just has to be news coming out from there, what exactly is transpiring. So the first couple of bits I was like, oh, and then out of nowhere, 2-3 articles dropped all around everything in going on in Korea around visit me, my ID, you name it. And obviously I got excited and started tweeting about this because this is exactly the point. Like, we wanted this news that was lacking. It wasn't coming through to our audience, and we couldn't secure this news either. So they're on ground. And what's been really great as well, I've in the background been chatting to Dean at the Iconist, and I normally leave comments. Can you get some updates around these particular topics? For example, the visit me, we saw them tweet about that, and the reminding people, this exists. And I actually put a comment saying, can you give us some clarity on or deep dive into what is being utilized on chain versus not on chain? Because there are two variations to the Visit Me app. One is just, doesn't register, it's just a quick scan, has nothing to do with blockchain. But then the more corporate side of it that utilizes Visit Me, that utilizes the public chain. So it was more deep diving and giving the community clarity. So they actually reached out and want a bit more context so that they could touch base with Icon Loop and get the information out, which is exactly, again, what the Iconist to me is all about, and why I'd been quite vocal, and yourself, Icongrapher, about hoping they get funding by CPS and gets pushed through so that we start getting this news. So to me, this was a big thing, and I'm excited to keep seeing future articles come out all around what's going on in Korea.
Yeah, totally. And it was nice to see them pretty much hit the ground running, and especially addressing topics that have been kind of I would say languishing, but certainly hadn't been. I think it's one of those things where we assume everything's still moving in the right direction, and they're still getting adoption and usage and everything like that. But it's always nice to get kind of regular confirmation of that and just know that progress keeps moving in the right direction. So certainly very excited about that as far as the My ID momentum continuing.
So next one we have EPICX. Yes, so we have a few stats. One there in open beta, so everyone can play. I believe, what's the date today? It will be either this morning, a few hours back. They have released their second game, is now in open beta. But something they just put out, which was interesting, with just one game live, and when it went to open beta, they've had over 330 plus games played, 850 predictions made plus, so over 850 predictions, and over 27,000 ICX in rewards. So, even for, if you're thinking, oh, those numbers aren't that large, it is just in open beta, and for such numbers, the rewards are huge. 27k in ICX, that's fantastic. So what are your thoughts, Icongrapher?
For something that's, I think the open beta came out 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so to where, initially it was a closed beta, so it was a small group, and then everyone's available to use it. Again, it's beta, so there's, that comes with the caveat that there could be little bugs and issues, which there have been, but the team's been pretty responsive on fixing those as quickly as possible. Pretty good, I would say, pretty good numbers for something like that. I think also the fact that it's only been limited to one game thus far out of the 4 potential. I think that's also encouraging as well. And so now with crypto duels available and open, I think by the time you listen to this, it'll be up and running. And if not, then very, 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 very soon afterward. I think it'll just further kind of create more activity. So I've always enjoyed following this project. I really like the user interface and how they've designed the system. And I look forward to having some ongoing competition moving forward, especially as we get a bit more enticing price action as well. So certainly nice to see. And then another just kind of small hit for those of you who kind of are aware of it. There's the ICX, I guess the comics, like ICX Comics, which is kind of a comic series, is a way of taking some of the news developments and developments on the Icon blockchain as a whole, and just kind of explain them in a very nice graphical form. They do very good graphic design. They just came out with one for the ICE blockchain, just kind of explaining it really quickly in an easy to understand way. Something that's very nice to be, shareable on social media, send it to your friends, kind of hold, a quick hit, just some nice marketing. And this is something we've seen other blockchains do well to a successful degree. So give that a quick peek if you haven't done so already. I'm sure it's probably popped up on your Twitter timeline or Telegram or something like that. But if not, go ahead over to the ICX Comics social media and give it a look.
Look, this one was a good one. It was all around ice, and they're quick little bullet points. So if until now it hasn't clicked or you're just not sure, it's a good comic to look at. Well done to the team. And you know what I love? They after they publish their comic, they actually engage the community and go give a few different topics and ask everyone what do they want to see. So this was one of they polled, and everyone picked obviously ice and how it relates to Icon. And they got the article, the comic out, so yeah, definitely worth. We'll have a link in the show notes with the tweet, so jump on through and take a look.
And then kind of on our final topic, Craft, or I guess Stakey, the team behind Craft, announced that Craft will be launching very soon here. Should get announcement details, seems like any day. So certainly something they've been working on for a long time. I've been playing around with the alpha version, which anyone can do. And it's very very intuitive, very easy to use. If you've used like OpenSea on Ethereum, it certainly reminds me of that. Pretty straightforward, and I think anyone who wants to buy or sell on there should be able to figure out pretty quickly. And they've also indicated they have some additional features that they'll be launching as well that weren't necessarily included in the alpha. So really slick user interface and user experience. And we have NFT Bazaar, which has generated some activity, but I think a lot of people were looking forward to Craft as well, just based on kind of how it looks and how sleek it is. And I think there's going to be a lot of cool quality projects on there. Obviously, the one I've been working on, the Icon Treasury. I believe Wineable is working off of there as well. I'm not sure off the top of my head what other projects might be coming out, but I know the team has been kind of interacting with other projects and getting them all kind of, we'll be coordinating with them on launch details and everything like that, just so everyone's set and ready to go. So hopefully, as soon as it launches, there's a spree of buying activity, and we can kind of instantly have a really healthy and fruitful NFT ecosystem pretty quickly here.
Yeah, look, and what I liked at the end of the tweet, they made mention that they're working on another project as well. So that's how close it is to release. That they've already picked up another project, which they said they'll announce soon. So excited to see what that will be. I'm getting a bit greedy, aren't I? Before even the old project's out, I'm like, okay, done with that. That's old news now. Let's hear the new stuff. But no, the marketplace, the craft marketplace. Uh, Really keen, excited. You can see a lot of detail, care, and love has been put into the UI and everything. And I know you're right; they have been working on a few things in the background to make sure it launches with various things. So can't wait to get a D date for that. So I think that covers all the icon news. I think the only quick couple of call outs, if we were looking at, we did a bit of a market update. I thought a couple of tidbits I found interesting in the broader crypto space was, in the last week, we've seen from a Bitcoin perspective, the active addresses have doubled in the last week, which is interesting given they'd plateaued. Again, we're seeing BTC exchange levels, that is BTC held on exchanges, drop. But that's also the case for ETH. In fact, the ETH has been the lowest it's ever been, and one of the driving factors is more of it is being it's different, right? So a lot of it's being deployed in the E2 contract, but at the same time, with the thriving DeFi ecosystem, a lot of ETH gets pulled off and now is being utilized in DeFi for various reasons. But again, usually these are good signs, and one of the last things that this has been consistent is there is a lot of stablecoins sitting in the sidelines on exchanges. Now, I'm not trying to insinuate anything, but traditionally these kind of signs are good, bullish in nature. However, I guess the bearish part of it is these coins have been sitting on the sidelines. Stablecoins have been sitting on the sidelines for a while. So when they actually get deployed to purchase crypto is
they're all waiting for BT. They're all waiting for BTP, is what you have to assume.
yeah, exactly. Get that 10% discount, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So look, those are some quick takes there. I mean, yeah, we talked the markets the alts are pumping at the moment. I don't know, BTC. Hopefully, look, I think sideways action, something that gets called out. Everyone wants very quick up. It goes up, it falls just as quickly. Obviously, we're all disheartened by that. But as soon as it starts going sideways, everyone's like, this is boring. What's going on? We're not getting into decision. But it's a good thing for it to go sideways, for it to consolidate and just reset a little bit. We just can't have emotionally just can't deal with the roller coaster, let alone it's just not good for any market. So look,
yeah, I'm sure if you're a trader, you're disappointed by the lack of volatility. But I think if you're any normal person, it does give a little bit of nice pause. Obviously, we all enjoyed the dopamine from the the bull run back in kind of March and April. But yeah, I agree with you, Fez. It's slow and steady are certainly better over the long term and for our mental health.
Yeah. And look, the last thing that people have been talking about a bit is this GBTC, the Grayscale Trust. We know in the past it's structured for companies to go and buy, and had been always buying it at a ridiculous premium. Obviously, that has changed, and this fund has been locked. So when they buy it, they can't do anything with it. So what's happening this week is this fund is being unlocked, but now there's a bit of confusion out there where people are saying, okay, all this BTC is going to be flooding the market and they're going to sell. This is not the case. Well, all it is the shares that they have purchased for this fund, components of it are being unlocked, and yes, they could sell these shares the way they bought them, but BTC isn't going to be hitting the exchanges and being dumped. It's not the way it works. So look, there's a few things. There's a great tweet. I'll actually put it in the show notes if people are interested. Do take some time and read it. They give a lot of context on what this means, what's the bearish sentiment, what's the bullish sentiment about it. But overall, this is probably the biggest, I think, question mark at the moment. All the charts, all the data stuff show that it's looking bullish, but there's this bearish component for very short term because there's a sizable fund that gets unlocked. And what are the companies going to do? Are they going to sell their shares and put pressure to try and rebuy at a cheaper rate? So there's a bit of conversation around that. So we'll put that in the show notes. And I don't have a specific view on this. I don't know. I just read about it and try to see from my well, I don't know what I do. I just try to keep updated. That's all. It doesn't really give me any hints on what to do with my bags, but it's good to know.
I think too. It's one of those things where it's like, people are already aware of the information. There's literally a set date on it, and so I think it's one of those things where the market's fully aware of, an event happening. The price already adjusts kind of accordingly, right? So whatever impact the market believes that unlock might have, you have to assume it already prepared for it. And so, maybe the price of Bitcoin already kind of took into account that was going to happen. And so, that's just something to consider. It's kind of similar to, there's a lot of people who I've noticed in the Icon community who were saying, they can't wait for 2.0 to come out because as soon as it comes out, that's going to be good for the price. Where it's sort of, and again, everyone's already aware of 2.0, so it's not like the day it releases, people are going to wake up and say, okay, now I can buy Icon. I wasn't going to until 2.0 release, something like that. So usually, they always say that, markets are super efficient and things are priced in like this. And so, there's some dispute whether or not that's true. I tend to think it is that, once something is known information, the market already kind of adjusts accordingly. And so that's why, when the actual event happens, that's kind of where the phrase, buy the rumor, sell the news, because the rumor is what generates, the price action initially. And then when it actually happens, everyone who kind of bought based on the rumor says, okay, this is the highest it's going to go. And then they dump. So that's why sometimes you'll see, prices go up for an anticipated event. And then once the event happens, people get excited. And then all of a sudden the price dumps and people are confused why. And that's usually the process that happens out is basically at the time the event actually happens, the price has been maximized and everyone kind of bought on the speculative nature of it. And then once it happens, it's kind of on to the next thing. So just something to keep in mind. Obviously in this case, it's good news because it means that theoretically whatever pain from the unlocking could have already happened. So just something to keep in mind.
Look, and it's so good that you said that, Iconographer, because that is exactly one of the theories as well that just as you say, buy the rumor, sell the news. Essentially,
right.
That's already played out in this instance. Again, that's a theory that's been put forward, which makes sense and is in line with literally every other component and news factor that happens in crypto. So it is a very good call out. Look, that's all I have from my end, Iconographer. Any other words of wisdom?
No, I think I think this was probably a little bit of a shorter episode, but I also think we got through. There was a lot that happened, so we got through it just kind of quickly. So certainly still a lot going on, and hopefully we have some more to report as far as some of those upcoming developments from the foundation as far as migration and as far as ICE is concerned. So definitely, assuming that is the case, I certainly look forward to discussing that next week, as well as whatever other exciting news comes along.
Agree. And as always, this is not financial advice. We are just two people breaking down the news and sharing our views. If you are making any investments based on what you're listening, please do your own research and make sure you're comfortable with all of that. But as always, thank you so much for listening to the podcast, supporting us, all the comments and feedback. We really appreciate it and are grateful. And yeah, take care, everyone, and we'll chat soon.
See ya.